Hi, I'm Chris Roberts. I'm the project director of Squadron 42, and I'm sitting here with David Haddock, the lead writer.
Hello.
And also Sean Tracy, the director of global content, who's overseeing both Squadron and Star Citizen. And we're here to talk about the Vertical Slice, which we just premiered a little earlier today on the holiday live stream. So here we are, opening up in Odin's system, and we're sort of establishing the scene and catching us up on the story. Dave, do you want to?
Yeah. So basically, because we kind of dropped in the middle of the story, we wanted to give you a little bit of context, just so you could kind of understand a bit of like what the conversations were happening, and what they were talking about and stuff like that. So
yeah. So we're this is. Not at the very beginning of the game, but I would say it's sort of, I don't know, like beginning of the second act, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
Or it's like, so you've already arrived on the Stanton. You've sort of bedded in. You've started to fly some missions. So the very first time you actually fly a mission is what we had with the IGN teaser, where Old Man says, "Who the hell are you?" Which is kind of fun because the whol game's about getting Mark Hamill or Old Man's approval, which is very cool. So here we are. We're waking up in the sort of sleeping quarters area of the Idris, and each of these cubicles, they've got their own little shutters, so you can get asleep. And we are kind of waking up, and we're one of the things to think and remember about what we're going for Squadron, and ultimately we'll do the same for Star Citizen, is we want everything to be very tactile, to be very sort of what you can wear or what you can carry is what you can do. So we don't want this sort of RPG infinite bag of holding. You can have all these items. So here we want you, if you're going to put on your BDUs from what you were sleeping in, you actually do it. You put on the flight suit later, the same thing. And here we are, and this is a more full version of the AI system that we've called Subsumption, that's running sort of the missions and the AI and the characters. You're seeing a lot more of their actions around here than say you would have seen maybe in what we've put in 3.0 in the PU.
Yeah, and actually it even made the captures challenging because of all these AI doing very different things every time. It's not perfectly deterministic, so he's not always at the microwave actually getting himself something to eat.
Yeah, no, definitely. We've had captures where we were having conversations and we were not close enough in the conversation, so the AI cut in front of us like photobombed, which was it's quite funny actually. So we've had this whole, it's not implemented here, but we have on the list of things to do to sort of have some AI tech that sort of knows that you're talking to someone and walks around the back of you instead of finds the shortest path between the two of you. So we've woken up, we've gotten our BDUs. We're just right now, the idea was to sort of show a little bit of the Idris. We're actually not showing all of it. It's pretty massive. There was sort of the Idris special that showed a bit more of it because there's the med bay, and there's a cargo room that we didn't go in, that we just walked past. There's a missile room. There's a hold down. There's a hangar for the Argo below and the gravity generator below. So it's pretty good.
Sir, if you're not too busy, I was wondering about the combat you saw during your last mission.
And so here's the first example of sort of our sort of fluid cinematic conversation system. So I'm not sure we really move around here, but you can maybe see it in some of the other parts. We move around, his head will track us, he'll look at us. It's the quality of the characters is cinematic level quality, and there's no difference. So there aren't really any we don't have any pre-rendered cinematics, so we do occasionally we'll take the camera and play out a sequence, but you're actually still present. It's all running in the engine live.
Totally.
But that's why why Lars looks so good here.
I mean, the thing that always strikes me even watching this now, it's interesting seeing the great animation of him talking, but it's actually the pauses in between it when he's listening to you, because it really seems like he's processing what you're saying, which is just fantastic.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, in fact, I think if you look at film or everything, it's almost like the reaction of someone tells you much more about what's going on rather than what people are saying. And with the fact that we did this full-on performance capture and facial capture, we're getting all the performance that we're getting on the stage, and you sort of see the subtleties where, exactly, someone's listening to you and you're telling him this, and he's
like if you pick that other conversation option, for example, he has a little smirk when you make a little bit of a joke on it. That's just it's really interesting.
Sure, and maybe to mention too, we've got a bit of, as we walked into the bridge, we got a bit of stutter and these kind of things. So just to remind everyone that this is a live capture off of a gameplay build. We were not faking anything. you know, just because we were going to pre-record this didn't mean we were going to fake or fix time step or do anything that you would you normally do in a game capture just to kind of make everything look perfect, right? Because this is the reality of exactly where this game is at this exact moment, but we've just barely started to scratch the surface on optimization on this particular stuff. If you're playing the 3.0 pre-U, you know that we've been focusing on that level of optimization when you get there.
And I would say, yeah, so that's a lot of reasons you'll see variable frame rate during the playback of the this portion of the mission that we're going through. And we will. Our goal is to for a high spec machine run this at 60 frames a second, and low spec to be at least 30 frames a second. This is actually pretty cool because we're on the Idris, which is a massive. It's basically a flying level inside the coil, which is this volumetric cloud tech. Flying around Shuban, Arkan Station, there's a Shuban mining facility, and which is 8 kilometers in size. So just the sense of immersion and scale is pretty cool. And that was Cass Fallon, our comms officer.
Yeah.
That you have some theories about, Dave? Or
no, she's just straight professional. It's just says hello, but then gets back to her job.
And so here we are. We're going to head down now off the bridge. And so the bridge has access on both sides, stairs on both, and there's the elevator in the middle that we came up. We walk past, a Marine on guard, and part of the basic subsumption, there's what we call wild lines. So they'll see you, they'll say hello. I think I saw some memes or jokes on Reddit.
A lot of lieutenants.
So lieutenant.
They're very respectful.
But we actually have a lot of variation of greetings, and different characters all have their own custom stuff. So
and also, ultimately, it'll be sort of reputation based too. So the better you're doing, the more people will acknowledge you.
Yeah, and if you're not, they're not, or they're curt with you. And so right there was actually Gunnar Haynes, which we didn't go and see. So he is part of this chapter that you go around, but we kind of felt like, this is already an hour and 6, and we're only doing a portion of what you can do. In fact, the mission we'll do later is sort of one of the optional missions you can do in this area of stuff. And so we sort of felt like an hour or so of gameplay was, we didn't need yet another conversation. But if you're playing it, there's a lot more. So a lot of the characters that you see all talking and doing stuff, this is all systemically driven for a start. But there's a lot of backstory insight. You can whoever you want to talk to, find out what's going on with them, and really get to know the crew, which is what we're hoping. You'll get a real emotional attachment to the crew.
The amazing thing too is also, or if you don't, you can just move on to your next mission point. Like there's that again. Like it's up to you.
If you want to get invested, right?
Yeah, if you're the type who likes
and a good
to talk
example, there was a couple engineers sitting outside the engine room, and if you stop, and I've stopped on my playthroughs and sat there and listened, they're talking about Morrow, how he's a genius for coming up with this, crazy thing. And then you come in and you see him here. So there's a lot of interchange between the characters, which is quite nice. And you can get right up close to all of them, and they'll all be holding up just like Lars was, just like everybody else was. We've brought, what typically was like a hero level sort of character, and we've spread that out to a quantity that's
all
just
of them,
beyond
everyone, all the characters. And
so everybody's a hero. There's no background characters.
Yeah, Morrow, he's actually one of my funnest characters. Yeah. And here there's a little bit of tech, so where we're looking around, he can detect. We got this thing that we call spoil tech, and it can give signals to the AI based on where you're looking. Also, if you look at running around here and some of the AI, there's points of interest they go by, and they may glance at the point of interest, glance at you as they go by. So it helps break up the more robotic AI locomotion. And we're still early stages of that, so that's going to get that's going to get a lot better. But we're really focused on trying to make the behavior and movement of the AI as good and natural as possible. So this, as far as we're concerned, is still got a long way to go. There's a lot of subtlety, because it's all about dialing in the subtlety. So we've moved. If you actually go back and look at the Morrow tour and look at this, it's totally night and day.
Yes.
But we're going to go a lot further, because for us, the goal is to really sort of make what we call a sort of fluid cinematic experience. So it sort of feels like you're in a movie, and it has that sort of sense of drama and has that sense of detail and texture. But you're totally in control, and that was kind of what I was talking about. The cinematics, where even though they're live and we take the camera controller away, if you don't want to have that, you can just hit a key and it'll be back to your point of view, and you'll see the actions of the people doing from your point of view. So this would be an example of somewhere you could do this. Right here, we take over the camera cut once we walk in. So this is all gameplay, and you could actually walk into the back of this shot if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Or you could just go back to your point of view. But we want to have, we've got these great actors, great performances, and you really need to sort of get up there to get it. And
to take
I think
in the performance.
in this playthrough we did, you sort of can see moment. I mean, there's a great conversation with Captain White afterwards, where you sort of, you get some texture about his son and maybe some sense of regret.
Monologue, and it's
and there's a later one with some OMC's prisoners that come in that's really great. So yeah, having the ability to sort of take over the camera to get these close-ups to sort of give you a bit more up-close detail in the story is great, but you can also just cancel out and be just watching this from the point of view we were just seeing there before.
Well, you were right, Colton. That man is a complete ass.
Yeah, the performances of the actors, it's such a different thing to have, these AAA actors in game instead of, a hand-animated guy that was voiced by somebody in the development studio. Do you know what I mean? It changes the game completely.
Well, yeah, no, it's fun. I mean, it's fun, and also, we shot for over 100 days in London, over 15 in 2016. And got up and see now if we stayed here and didn't do this, I do this on when I'm playing through because I think it's fun. There's about 3 or 4 prompts, and we always had fun shooting them because the actors would have to basically it was like the player was like totally a troll when we shot it, because he had to be would you like a seat, and then there was like old man would say something, and then
Why don't you sit
Captain
down?
White would say something. So we have 3 or 4 of the encouragements that happen everywhere, but in the case of a fastest playthrough we didn't do that, but I do it because I always think it's kind of fun.
As soon as you clear the coil, I want you to
So, and this scene, without mentioning the RTT tech, would be, not complete. That has opened up so many different things that we can do.
She's
with
actually
briefings,
down
because
on
she's
the flight
actually down there. Yeah.
This is that's like a live Skype call happening in the game right now,
Right.
which is super cool. And the same was for Wexler. Like Wexler's sitting there in his office in Schuben that we could see out the window.
We're flying around.
It was super cool. So, and here you're in full control. I mean, it just happens to be that we were looking at Captain White, but we could come over here. That's Mark's gonna, or old man as he is in our game, is gonna head off, and he actually, and they all, and everyone that does, we don't cheat in this. They don't like warp. He like passes all the way down, and then and you could follow him. And I've had fun because we have a certain playthrough done, but he actually changes his outfit and gets his helmet on and goes down and gets into a ship. It's cool.
It's been good, sir.
And we've still got the last 5-10%. Just push these faces, push the characters, push the quality just a little bit further. But that last little percentage will always take the time, and we could do it infinitely. There's people.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got some tech that we're talking about doing on the heads and the faces where there'll be some additional simulation beyond what we just have captured.
And it's meant to be subtle stuff, and all of these things will
make
be
the
subtle.
muscles and stuff be better.
Yeah, it's kind of like skin jiggling on top of the muscles, as well as the blinks. That was some of the things that sometimes called out the blinks. Sometimes the same speed of close as open, which isn't really that real. But when it's a PCAP performance like this, the technology just totally shines.
No, it's great.
Especially with an actor like this.
I love it. I mean,
crazy.
Liam Cunningham's great, and this is a great scene. You really get to, it talks about his son. It's nice, and and we have a lot of these moments with, a lot of the characters in the game, because we had like 350 speaking roles in this when we shot it.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
and we I think we basically hired every actor we could hire in London. There's a lot of good ones, and it was great.
That's good advice.
But yeah, again, I mean, this was another example, kind of like what I was saying with the Lars thing, like
Sir, have you thought
the
about
pauses of,
while he listens to you.
while he listens to it, while he's thinking, he gets lost in thought and stuff like that. It's just, they really did a great job with
The
it.
facial animators love to solve those ones too.
Yeah, and I love that because you can see it.
Yeah, they're easier.
You see that pause right there before he says, "I've kept you too long. You're dismissed, Lieutenant."
Yeah.
Yes.
And you can sort of see him thinking it, and I think
Subtle
those little
stuff.
things. I mean, this is just a very tiny amount of what's in actual Squadron 42. And
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
when we were locking down all the performances and editing it without any of the scenes and without any the rest of the stuff. The characters felt really alive, and I think it's going to be great. Again, this is the RTT tech being used. This is we got some color light balancing stuff to do. So a lot of the video comms that you'll see in this and the RTT is not going to be how it is in the final. I mean, our goal is, because that's rendered live. He's down in the flight control playing his lines, and you've got a camera there and it's playing it on you. But the goal is that the RTT looks just like it does when you're here wandering around in the photo. So we still got some dialing in to do, but a lot of this stuff sort of has come in recently, as people know, also in 3.0. So it's still pretty early days.
And the importance of this was all the functionality. Everything needs to flow together, run together. Basically, anybody needs to be able to start this up and be able to play through, chapters. Well, I'm not going to say which ones they were, but the chapters that we're in.
I'm looking for some new gear. What can I get for you?
And this is Chakma. He's our sort of ship's weapons master
Combat
guy
knife.
who's going to hook you up with your guns.
Yeah, and I love. I mean, this is another one of my goals here with this is I'm really, the tactile. I was saying about you put the clothes on, and I hate this. Like I just look at a screen and I pick my weapons or something, where it just feels very gamey.
It just magically appears.
And it magically appears. And so this is and actually in Star Citizen and some shops I'd like to have this level too, where the shopkeeper will put things in front of you. But it's great because he actually picks the weapon out, and we don't select it here, but if we went and said what the bearing P8 AR rifle, he'll go over to, because all the different weapons are on the racks behind him, and he actually takes it from there and puts it down in front of you. But again, in terms of time of this, we decided we didn't want to do too many of the stuff. But it's kind of fun, and you can also come in here, get a weapon, go to the shooting range just across the way, do some practice shooting. I mean, I forgot to mention there's a shooting range and an armory as well on the Idris. I mean, Idris has got so much stuff.
So much.
It's crazy. I mean, honestly, we got to get the AI crew working for players in the main PU Star Citizen, because otherwise it's going to be a very lonely experience. Your own floating fortress.
When we all first saw that animation where he does the when he cocks the weapon, puts the magazine in his hands, we're all like, oh, yep, Stephen Bender was here. He definitely was the very, very
and this
flamboyant.
This is kind of a fun movie reference, and it's actually an Easter egg, and really the Easter egg, well, I'm not going to tell you how you get it, because it will not be an option from the beginning when you actually play the proper game. But we thought we'd put it in here for fun to say that.
Yeah, it was kind of too much to resist if you're walking up to a gun guy and asking him for weapons.
Yeah, exactly. Throw in. And by the way, there's quite a few fun Easter eggs in Squadron that we're not going to talk about, and I'll be looking forward to seeing everyone discover within, I don't know, the first day or so it gets released.
Yeah, there's one in particular that I have a feeling you were thinking about that I'm dying to know if anyone discovers it, because it's going to be awesome if they do.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they will. This is today's gaming, and
it's true.
Everyone shares everything online, but we had some fun with it. So let's say we all have similar movie tastes and made some nods to it.
Yeah, we've all got similar sense of humor on all this stuff too. One of the things when you're walking across that walkway, like those, there's windows that are down to the hangar. You can see all the deck crew and everybody moving around the ships, getting them ready. I quite like the additions to the windows and everything here. Here's Belosa.
Yeah,
infamous Mop Man.
Best thing about everyone being at battle stations.
He's a bit more than he seems, isn't he?
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Well, I mean, also in the mopping is a bit more than it seems.
Well, I mean, in fact, we don't have the mop tech working fully yet. But,
but
he is going to pick up the subsumption stuff is he can pick up his bucket, go around and actually clean up puddles and stuff. Yeah. And that's all like kind of procedural. So that's
almost done here, kid. Just a few last
it'd be cool. It just makes the place more alive.
Yeah, totally.
We've had a skirmish with the OMC, and you've seen how they fly.
So again, just little bits that jump out at me while we watch this. Right, we're going to improve some of the hair. We're going to improve some eye convergence, definitely in these. And there was an animation hitching there. I mean, a lot of this stuff we've gotten the stuff in because it's sort of the proof of concept vertical slice, but a lot of the dialing in, the subtleties of it, we haven't had the time to do yet. Of course, we will be doing. And here, I mean, we know what's happening, so on the playthrough, we're kind of waiting for the Argo to come in, but that's all happening live in the game, and then
we're taking over the. And if you went back to your point of view, you would see this playing out from the point of view up where you were in the sort of ready room.
For me, this is one of the best examples of why having all the faces at the level that we have, all the characters at the level we have, all the performances at the level we have really, really makes a difference to the game. Because this is you get real invested in this cutscene. You can see some subtle emotions that are really, really hard to communicate from a game character. For example, being in charge but scared at the same time. Yeah. So you can see these guys are hauling these guys out. The first, it's pretty easy, and then they start to get a little bit nervous and these kind of things.
But yeah, I mean, again,
you can even see it on their faces. Like to be able to read a face like that is a tricky thing in most games.
No, I've never been in one of these. It's nice. Not as nice as a Bengal, but nice. Move it! Oh, come on, clear out!
Yeah, it was actually fun to shoot this on the day. Wasn't it, Dave? Yeah.
OMC's gonna have to teach you screw tops some manners. Are you looking to start trouble?
Yeah, maybe a couple eye darts in there, and that would be good. It's close. It's so close.
And he actually popped around a bunch.
Great
he appeared as a bunch of different characters.
Yeah, he's a great theatre actor in the UK, and we have some other fun. Smaller
and then
roles
here
that
comes
he had
big guy. We got to make the Argo kind of come up just a tiny bit.
Well, he's big in real life too. So.
Yeah.
Ain't like we're gonna be
Maybe 6'6" or something.
Ain't like they're gonna be here long either. What the hell are you all going on about?
It's very simple. We're OMC. And OMC belongs to Sato Khan. And Sato Khan doesn't like people messing with his things, you got me?
Sato Khan? Is that your boss? Are we supposed to be scared of him or something?
Yeah.
Neuer, run up to the holding cells. Make sure everything's ready for us. I don't want to move them through the ship until we have...
See again, it's just the subtle emotion, right? You don't usually get that.
Well, yeah, I mean that's when you've got the performance capture.
Yeah.
You know the actors can play and they can do this stuff
together.
You need good actors because they're sitting there in grey suits with camera rigs on their heads. So they got to pretend they're on a spaceship and coming out. But if you have good ones, then you can really get the subtlety that you got with that, which is great. And that's all the way through, which is I think that's what's going to make it different to what you've seen before. Now, and also, by the way, if I decided I didn't really want to see that scene play out and I just came out of that point of view, old man, while that was happening, went and pathed to his locker, opened the locker, put his flight suit on, and then headed off down to the flight deck and gotten into his Gladius at the front. And you could see that. You could just say, I don't want this thing's happening over here, I'm not interested in that, and turn around and do that. And I actually did it on a couple of playthroughs just for the fun of it. But yeah, it's cool. So again, this is tactile. You pick up, you hold the helmet. It's a bit janky. Some of our pick-up, take-up stuff still needs quite a lot of work. Even if you guys are playing 3.0, you see that. There's a couple of the Marines heading off to the brig.
And the engineer, engineers never in a rush.
Yeah, they fix things on their own time.
Exactly.
Yeah. That might have been Tannen, I think.
Those Marines, though, they were running for it.
On a break.
Yeah. That Tagaka character, too, I'd be remiss not to mention that the character team had a lot of fun with that. Because typically we try to share bodies and meshes all we can, but with this guy, nope, he was going to have to be a big guy, huge arms, big tattoos, huge neck. It was really fun to make that character. He's the most interesting.
And I got to write a
done for a while.
tattoo doc, which is always fun.
Yeah, there was a whole story behind the tattoos. Like before he was a criminal. And it's great.
Like the ones he got on quarterdeck while he was in prison.
Hey, finish the work on your scanner. It should help you track down.
And Sophie's got some great
fly safe.
eye rigging that happens. Just again, some of these subtle emotions I'm just not used to seeing on them. So Sophie Wu does a great job of.
So we could. I always, when I do it, I inspect the helmet first because I think that's fun.
Nice.
And then I put it on, and there's a flip we could do, and then we'll get it. And again, this is another example of we're in. This is live gameplay. It's sort of trigger because we don't control old man, so we want to sort of show off the fun of that Top Gun launch kind of thing.
Yep.
Totally.
So we trigger that. But if you wanted to not deal with that, you could hit the key and be just sitting here in the cockpit watching it all happen in front of you rather than the more cinematic stuff that's happening.
Sure, and then CTAL calls you from
so
the
either from the point of view here or seeing this, but this we're going for a cinematic feel. So I personally I think this is how I would see it. I think a lot of players would do that, but if you don't want it, you want to be all point of view, then you can have that too. And we still, our sort of space lighting still has a ways to go, like the live sort of you know, dynamic GI that we're working on isn't in quite yet, so that will add a lot to.
And also with all the camera cuts we're turning on and off certain lights, we're opening doors, we're doing all this stuff in real time, and again, because it's not in a video, this is all actually in the world right beside the player happening, so there's just a bigger challenge with it.
And it's why you see the frame rate drop a little bit, because there's a lot more stuff getting drawn here. And you're also seeing some things like
landing
you
gear
saw some
flickering.
jittering on the landing gear because it's all physicalized, and there's sort of there was some conflict between the animation and the actual physics simulation, which is all stuff we'll dial in and won't be there in the final one. But you know, it's still early stages, so
it's also worth throwing out that, I mean, the level of detail on the flight deck crew. I mean, that whole handoff thing is, I mean, that's all like,
yeah,
legit.
that's another Stephen Better specialist.
Well, I think he got hold of
really
he got hold of some proper carrier deck crew, and they sort of worked out what different people would do in this sort of situation, because it's slightly different for this than you would be on on an aircraft carrier, because we're not really have a catapult launch, but you know, we kind of have it for fun, and you know, luckily you don't need this many people to launch your ship in the persistent universe. But
yeah, so it was a little bit dark in this capture here, but yeah, they were doing actual semaphore that would be for
well, I think the thing was that we just put in a change in the lighting state for the launch, which is this emergency, and it needs a few more lights because you can't see,
they look like little Tron guys.
You can't see the guys
right
telling you what to do, but they're there like giving you the spin your engines up. Okay, they do the triangle over them for you to go to hover mode. And then here's us sort of launching, like, and you can see that's loading a bunch of stuff at the outside.
A lot of the exterior of the Idris usually.
Yeah. And then we cut out to the third person to show it, and now we're sort of out flying in sort of the outskirts of the coil where Shubin's based. So the coil. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the coil?
Yeah, I mean, the coil is sort of the remnants of Odin 1. So the first planet in the system got kind of smashed up when the star nova'd. So it sort of created this kind of weird sort of electromagnetic anomaly. So it's just these like massive chunks of like planetary debris and this weird sort of perpetual ongoing ion electrical storm type thing. So it's a very like precarious place to go. And but you know, mining companies like try to risk it because there's a lot of minerals in there. But also criminals use it because it's so dangerous that people won't follow them in there. So it's a very kind of sketchy.
Right. And the OMC's base is kind of in the coil.
Yeah,
so I think the coil, you know, like we were looking about maybe about 10,000 kilometers in radius, so about 20,000 kilometers in diameter, about 10 times the size of one of our sort of Earth planets, like it's been exploded, because we scale things down, which is, you know, our Earth planet, like an Earth-style planet, would be about 1,000 kilometers in radius. And actually, the tech that's doing this is not a background; it's a full-on sort of volumetric. Kind of cloud tech.
Well, you can see the lighting coming through. That's the biggest challenge: is the volumetric lighting through such a structure. And the graphic guys have been working on it quite a lot, and it's still coming along.
Yeah, and it's also early days. I mean, like the issue that we have here is it doesn't handle the scale that we need to go for. The big as I said right now, I think this is maybe about I don't know, 800 kilometers in radius, not 10,000 kilometers in radius.
Yeah.
So the further version of the tech will allow us to have different sizes and scales of sort of VDB clouds or whatever. And we use it's this open VDB format, which is sort of it's a
voxel format.
Yeah, a voxel format that does the sparse. It was actually first developed by DreamWorks to use in the one where they go to the clouds with Jack the kitty. You know, the Antonio Banderas movie. My kids watch it all
Puss
the
in
time.
Boots?
Shrek?
Yeah, Puss in Boots. Puss in Boots, and they go up to the giants land in the clouds. Anyway, but that was where the VDB was first developed by the team at DreamWorks. But we use it because it allows you to sort of define where the voxels are, and you don't have to have a regular, grid for it.
Right, and we could run it through our resource compiler in real time. So they export basically a frame from Houdini or FumeFX or something, some crazy level of sim. And I liked it because a lot of people will think this is just a skybox, and actually I think it's right about here that we go into quantum and you actually see the thing's not a skybox at all. You know, it's an actual fully volumetric thing. And I've never seen anything quite so soft in a game. normally when you have volumetric clouds and these kind of things, it's the edges are never soft. You always see this undersampling or lines and some sort of blend. But yeah, it's some of the best I've seen.
Yeah, and like I said, for the final one, the much more scale, there'll be ability to have different sizes of it and a lot more put together. So you'll actually have a lot more of it and a lot more activity and a lot more sort of animation in terms of like lightning and stuff going on in the background, and it'll also be different depending on.
That's when you really get a good feel.
So you get a sense of that will be, full volumetric, and it'll allow, because we have this whole progression where there's outside the coil, on the edge of the coil, you go deeper, and as you get more deeper, it becomes more and more dangerous. It's like going into the eye of the storm, basically. And then, one thing I just call out is, some of our UI is, and our HUD stuff. It's all very early. We rolled out a little bit here for the 3.0 stuff, but it's all a bit clunky. It's going to get better because, if I was criticizing this portion of it, it would be mostly about kind of the feel in the cockpit, how easy it is to navigate, use your different devices. So that's all something that we have to spend a fair amount of time dialing in for Star Citizen, but also for Squadron, and there'll be a big focus, this coming year actually, to really sort of dial in the feel of, being in the cockpit and flying it, because we've been adding so many features for Star Citizen itself that we have, a lot of the sort of subtleties of the feel side of things have been neglected, but it's now, as a lot of the features are in place to allow us to do this sort of stuff, we've got to get back to making that aspect of it work well, and that would include like the traversal here. So like you add to your sort of first navigation point, like a nav point, like a wing commander, and then the next one to go towards the Starfarer, and you should see that sort of animate in as your nav point. Once you get to it and that you've got there, it would say, okay, now here's the next one, and here is actually kind of fun. This is a Nathan Dearsley special.
Oh yeah.
No, because he's like, I really want to make the traversal to arrive at the Starfarer wreck kind of interesting, and how about these two huge massive asteroids that are
interesting,
kind of close to each other that you have to fly between, which is what we're doing
here. Yeah, and I think you're totally right on the situational awareness for the players, kind of the big thing that we'll continue to work on, and it's not exactly the hardest thing either. It can easily take a backseat as you're developing features, tech, figuring out ways to put this in, figuring out ways just to get this stuff working, and then from there you make it feel a little better, make it play a little more fun, give the player the information to make those decisions.
I feel like this year we spent a huge amount of time just rolling out a lot of tech and features and trying to get them basically working in a basic sense. And this coming year there'll be more features and tech, but also there needs to be a lot more polish for what we're doing in Squadron, definitely, because we're trying to obviously want to get this in people's hands, but also for Star Citizen itself. And again, here's another example of a sort of cutaway to establish the scene, so you can come up and see the reclaimer and who's piloting it. It's a little dark here, but the actual idea is you come up and then sort of the camera, as you see it, the camera takes over to give you more of a close-up. So this still would need a lot more dialing in for the final the game, but it's kind of nice. And again, if you looked over at Mark Hamill or Gary Oldman in his ship, you would see him talking, and you go up and you went to the window, she's talking as well as being on the RTT. So they're actually live.
Yeah, they're actually there. Like that's what always blows my mind with these things, because so often that's been video or like, and again, I can't really think of another game that's actually projecting a volume from one place into the other, like onto a screen like this. And even her performance is quite good. Again, and she was not even like a top tier sort of character that we had to do. This was this is kind of a side quest, a side mission.
Yeah, she's well, and also I mean that's not even her face too. Like
no, that's right. That's actually that's a combination of a couple NPC faces plus one of our HR director's geometry.
No, we actually there was actually, I can't forget the name of the actress, but she was really good.
But I don't think we scanned her. Was the only,
I think it was okay. But I think the thing is, we have quite a lot of heads and faces that we scan, but we haven't processed them all yet. So a lot of time, like you'll see it in terms of some of our slavers, or say Donna Atar here, we kind of put an NPC head in while we're waiting to have the head finished or built out. But like, so for instance, when the OMC Prisoners came out, those three guys, those were the actual actors that we had, and you can really sort of see it. And we just have so many. I think there was in terms of scanned heads, there was way over 100 scanned heads,
Yeah.
and we still got a lot to
Plus
finish
we might
off.
even scan for
It's
more.
more the sort of secondary characters now, because all the main characters, and even obviously all the A-list cast is there, but then also the B kind of characters are mostly there. And now it's the smaller parts, like the pilot of the Reclaimer that you come across and stuff like that. But again, here's where I think the user experience, the UI for the traversal isn't there at the moment, and it needs to be. So the one thing in this playthrough, we kind of know where the points are because we sort of constructed it.
Yeah.
But from a new user standpoint, you wouldn't really
Totally.
know. And so that's all sort of detail and polish stuff that we're starting to work on. But the point of the vertical slice was really to put the different elements that you would experience in the game together,
All
right?
the
So it's
features,
like aboard the ship that you're based, interacting with the crew, the sort of emotional side of that, then the flying, then the running around on ground and doing it all fluidly, not having a loading screen or a transition animation or anything like that. So that was kind of that is what the vertical slice is really about to show. But a lot of the detail and the subtlety and the fluidity of it, will get dialed in as we finish off Squadron this coming year.
Arkin Station. Shooting base, right? Yeah, they got hit by the old sea. They attacked the station.
Cho's performance is quite good too.
That place is huge. They were able to stop.
I'll start mentioning performances. Everybody's performances.
Yeah, well,
Happy
she's
with- yeah, she's a
the
great
actress who
actress.
plays Trio is really good. She's, I don't know, UK folks probably know her from Poldark.
Right.
But I think she's we just lucky to have a lot of really great people.
Yeah.
It's fun.
No, I mean, and again, it's like all, whether it's major characters or very, very minor characters, like people really.
Yeah.
I feel like people. Huh? One of the other things too is this is about halfway through the game, if I'm not mistaken, or so.
Oh, you mean
So-
story-wise?
Yeah.
No,
and
it's not halfway
little-
through the game.
Or
It's before that. It's probably
just
about
a bit before third.
About a third.
Yeah. So just to mention that that's why there's really no player hand holding at this point, right? You've already gone through your learning how to use the nav map,
Yeah,
learning how to do things. So that's generally why there's not a ton of that either.
Yeah, no, we
But there is still
basically
readability
So what happens is when you first arrive on your posting, which is the UE Stanton, we have a fair amount of missions that you run, and during those missions, we sort of in the game itself teach you how to do things.
Yep.
Old man sort of coaches you, and you sort of learn all these basics of scanning and traversal and combat, and then by the time you get here, you'll have learned them all. So. That still doesn't excuse the fact that some of our UX and UI can be better, but yeah, we construct it because I hate these whatever you play Call of Duty and you got to go to the shooting range. Like I don't want to go to the shooting range. I want to get into the story.
It's a little overt. Yeah. No, and I don't like the overt training.
Well, we
either.
tried
There's
to
a
also.
great
I mean,
video
we tried to
online
be a little bit more cognizant of that, where it's like the
review.
people will ask if you want help. And if you say yes, then you can do it. Because people have been playing Arena Commander and stuff like that, so it's sort of a unique experience where like they can enter into this game being fully aware how to do
things,
everything in the
ship.
ship.
No, it's true. Actually,
yeah. And then so I'd like to point out here one thing that didn't make our vertical slice. We're kind of a little bummed about it. We had a whole sort of scanning. There's a whole radar and scanning stuff that you are not seeing here that almost made it, but didn't, and we kind of ran out of time. But here you would actually do a scan, you would scan these, you would get a readout, and it would actually say, Mercy Gutierrez, and it would actually say that she's 135 years old.
Yeah, her date of birth and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you're like, well, hang on a second, this is a bit weird. She's flying a Cutlass, and they're doing a patrol pattern.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's, the idea is the slavers have got a jacked IDs and stuff. And the scanning actually in a lot of this here, finding Trejo, and even when we get down onto the planet, because there's an FPS scanning thing where you can sort of do almost a little like the Batman stuff where you can sort of do a scan and analyze where the weak points are. So in a lot of what you see later on, really you would do scanning to figure out some of the stuff. We know like we get a battery from over here or whatever. That's because we sort of know the layout, but that's because the scanning was sort of missing. And the other thing, we have a whole new GPU shield effect that's pretty cool, but I think
you don't really see it much.
I don't think we saw it here. I think it was in we didn't get it fixed in time to work in the vertical slice, but it will be something that we're coming to Star Citizen like a 3.1, and it'll be in Squadron, and it's very cool because now we have GPU particles. We've got this what we call sign distance field around the all the ships, which conform to the exterior of the ship, so you get actually the proper shape, and we can run particles and they get attracted over it. So when an energy hits on a shield, you can sort of see them spread out over the shape of the ship. It's sort of the thing that you would use in high-end visual effects and pre-rendered stuff, but we can sort of now do it in the GPU stuff, which is pretty good. And I believe this was Robbie Ems, is one of our designers, was piloting. I did tell him that he didn't really follow. We actually don't. The scene with Haynes, he asks you if you got any tips, and one of the things you say, right, Dave, is best pilots conserve their ammo.
He is not conserving.
He is not conserving his ammo. Firing for effect.
Yeah. He is brooming.
And again, this is like I said. I feel like one of the big focuses anyway. I'm going to push on is the sort of feel of space combat and also the ground combat that's coming as we're trying to polish off Squadron, and that'll come across obviously into Star Citizen, because I sort of feel like a lot of that we still need to dial that in properly, because we've been so busy putting features in, procedural planets, all this stuff, which by the way you see a procedural planet right here, that we haven't had time to really get the basics back up to how I would like them, but now's the time to do it. So that will be coming down the road, and I'm kind of looking forward to that, because I think having a really good feeling combat, whether you're flying around or on ground, then with a sort of story and this kind of environmental design, which is Nathan Dearsley, we sort of just reorganized our kind of team structure, so Nathan has now become the art director for our overall Squadron, in charge of the ships, the environments, everything in it. I think it's. You've all known Nathan's amazing ship videos.
He's got grand visions.
He's got it's going to be great.
Definitely.
Although I did, the idea here, right, is that we've got some decaying old satellites.
Yeah.
Because
might have gone a bit.
And I did say, well, why some debris look like Wally? But I didn't really mean it literally. Why like Wally? So in the final game, there probably won't be quite this much, because I don't know how many satellites this would be, but the idea is
it's like 20 Olisars.
This moon was a sort of used for sort of chemical production and factory.
Yeah, gas extraction. We actually they profiled them in this month's Jump Point.
Okay.
And is it
and
toxic?
I commented on how much trash was in the atmosphere.
Well done, Dave.
And the atmosphere is toxic. This one or no?
Well, I think no. I think we were.
I think it was breathable.
Breathable.
It was breathable?
Yeah, we wanted to have it breathable. We also like to see people's faces. It's much better.
That's true.
Yeah.
So here would be the actual gameplay. Here we're actually going straight to where Trejo is, but the gameplay is you sort of arrive and you'd find the slaver ships, spoofing as someone else, that then they attack you. Then once you get rid of them, you've got to look for Trejo. You don't know where she is, and you start to scan, and you're looking for any kind of EM signal or IR signal, and so you sort of slowly work your way through. There's probably some false positives you scan through, and then you'll find her in here, and that's using the scanning gaming mechanic. But again, like I said, that didn't make it for the demo, which is unfortunate, because it was almost there, but it wasn't all the way there, so we control it. But there'll be more gameplay here where you're basically sleuthing around, because what we want to do is have all these tools, because they'll work great in Star Citizen, the big sandbox, but also in Squadron. It's not just a straight on the rails shooter like you may see with a typical sort of like a Call of Duty or something. You have a lot of kind of more RPG elements. You have some more sleuthy elements, some stealth elements, and puzzles, right? Like you'll see a puzzle will come up here, and it'll be a better puzzle in the final game, because again, we're missing some of our scanning that sort of helps you figure out stuff, but you can pick things up, move things, use them, do all that stuff.
And should mention, it's a sandbox puzzle too, so like you don't have to fly your ship in here. It's cool that they did, because it looks amazing when you get your ship in here. But you could park outside, you could 0G in, you could take your time, you could go explore the planet, come back. Like there's a lot of again, it's sandbox. It's do it how you want to do it. Solve the puzzle, but solve it in the way that you want to solve it.
Yeah, I mean, and as we'll see in the sort of approach to the slaver base from here, like they take a very kind of low, stealthy type approach to it, but you could just as easily say, screw it, I'm gonna just fly right at it and just open fire and try and take them head on, and that's a viable way to
well, and that's part of. I mean, we can talk to it when we get a bit lower, but that's not. Yeah. That would be in the final game way better signposted, where you get down, you have your options of because the reason why you'd fly low is the slavers have a whole bunch of radar and AA guns set up, which will basically take you out if you're flying too high, so you've got to get low under it. But you can decide, where we land is the back entrance that's shut down.
Right.
But you could go in the front door and really just go out in a straight all brawling out fight. It's kind of up to you.
I gotta mention the rendering here, though. There's the volumetric fog, the new fog tech, the HDR fog tech, plus the shadows, plus the sun, plus the dynamism of the thing moving around. You've got shadows moving, crawling across the ship, and all these kind of things. It's just, again, it's
yeah, and
nobody
again,
really takes it this far.
Yeah, and it really gives you a nice mood. I mean, and there's a gun there you can pick up. There'll be a bunch of. Actually, I think we're going to have a bunch of personal possessions from Treya. We didn't quite
go
get
through her
for
stuff.
this.
She's got a blanket,
and you can't see here, but it actually says slavers on the back. I don't know why. Maybe it's just how it got crunched when we, created it so it would go on YouTube. But it's a lot more subtlety when I'm playing it on my screen. I can actually see things like.
And we're still dialing in the RTT things, especially in the interior of the helmet. So that's now like an RTT projected into the helmet glass. So that's, just move the positioning probably a little bit. It's a little washed out right now.
Yeah, and we're actually missing. We got some sort of a first-person glass shader that we're going to use for your visor and your cockpit. It'll be subtle. It won't be as heavy-duty as the glass shader you see from third-person, but it'll give you a slight feeling of being encased in glass, which I think will be useful here because you don't really feel that there's a helmet on here. But we don't want something that will have a big glare or get in your way, so there's a sort of in between it. And I have to, by the way, call out. I mean, we've been playing. We haven't talked about it, but the music.
Oh yeah.
Jeff Sinelli has done an amazing job, and the music adds so much to the sense of flow in what we've shown here and will be in the game. And we've really approached it with a very sort of filmic. Jeff's a big film composer. Me and Dave worked with him on Outlander, which was fun, but he's done a lot of other things. Most recently, the most recent Pirates movie, and he's worked with Hans Zimmer a whole bunch, and he's got a big long. Did the Pacific, did a whole bunch of other stuff, and it's great. I mean, it's because we've got this what we call this music logic system, which is sort of an evolution of a lot. A long time ago in Wing Commander, there was kind of the Origin FX, which was this idea of the dynamic music, but this is a whole nother level beyond that in terms of being able to sort of move and modulate between different pieces depending on what's happening or what point you are in the story or the mission or whatever, and it's you're kind of sort of hearing it here, and I think that is again another element that you may not think of, but it really adds to the sense of place and mood.
Oh, that view is just incredible. With this, with the infinite view distance, it's just a different experience. And again, like in a lot of, everybody will be used to this being a skybox or something. And the fact that again, we've gone from the Idris through Shubin through the coil.
That's why Sean's going to come to every person's house and remind them while they play that it's not a skybox.
This is not a skybox.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the thing, right? That's the difficult thing with the.
That's what makes all of this harder.
Is the scale, and I know people. Oh well, the frame rate's low right now. Yeah, we know it's low, but no one else is trying to update or render or simulate this much stuff,
right.
And we definitely have solutions to bring the frame rate back in performance. It just takes time because it's a very complicated task, and I have no doubt we'll get there because we have some of the best engineers that are in the industry. But
and again, when we were watching this during the show, the same thought hit me as I was just watching it now, where it's like you think back as to where we've come from, waking up in the bunk, and there hasn't been a single load screen.
No, which really immerses. Like it has the effect of really investing you in that moment.
Yeah.
And anything that pulls you out of it is just super duper obvious. And like again, you see multiple materials on the ground. You've got all kinds of different gloss. This is
I think that's one of the key things here is that idea that like everything's fluid, right? So the whole story is fluidly lived out from your point of view, and there are no loading screens, no canned animation while you go to the next level, and that's not something that you normally see in a game, and you certainly don't see it at this level of scale, so I think when you get down and you start to actually play it, that will be one of the things that will make Squadron really special.
Yeah, I really like the debris coming down from the atmosphere. That's a fun thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, there meant to be these bits of the decaying satellites breaking off and coming down, and then you would sort of get an indication about the AA guns because they're sort of shooting the ones that are getting close. And then here, like again, our sort of radar and contacts thing isn't happening. But if you got closer, you would sort of see the indication, a signal of the AA guns, and the fact that you could potentially getting in radar range, and then see that's why you would want to duck down low. So this is sort of almost the idea with it in the final implementation is it's almost like a stealth approach, you know, like your Solid Snake or someone doing.
Yeah.
But you're trying to keep low and keep out of the sight, get out of the radar. And if you get up too high, suddenly, you know, you'd feel the radar pulse against you, and if you're too long, it'll detect you, so then you got to drop down.
Totally in line with what you were saying before, which is just the readability of the player. Like, for example, you know, I'm sure people watch this and go, well, why the heck is this guy flying this low? This is kind of a dangerous approach to make. But yeah, it's a dangerous approach because it's under the radar, like literally under the radar. You know, there's AA guns firing, there's these kind of things. So this is a choice that the player will make should they want to approach it like this, not, you know, guns blazing and trying to take out a whole bunch of turrets or something like this. So it's definitely something we have to work on in terms of the readability. But again, we just wanted to get it all together so you had a full playthrough experience. And then it's a matter of us playing these a bunch of times and going, oh, actually, yeah, we need to tell that a little better, or we need to inform the player a tiny bit more. Look this direction, move this direction.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what I was saying. Like they sort of, you know, the HUD read and all the rest of the stuff in terms of like your traversal and where you're going, or whether you're getting a radar signal, or you know, like you're getting scanned or anything.
Yeah.
We would sort of need that. But yeah, I love this. I mean, this stuff.
Where he's following the pipes. Or the
well, and also just the feel, right? The clouds,
definitely.
the sun in the background, and here's sort of a cutaway where we're cutting away to show.
And this is why you're flying under the radar, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And if you actually went up, you know, they would be shooting at you and stuff like that. So, and you know, it is a sandbox, right? So you could try to risk it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. You can make it.
But yeah, no, that's like a, you know, still from a movie or something. It's fantastic. And you know, we didn't really show up, but you have a journal and from Trejo where she sort of called out the different areas. So as you would be coming along to the base up here in a bit, she would have marked the possible entrances. Like, okay, here's the back abandoned entrance. Maybe we can sneak in the back air, which is what we're going to do. Or here's the main landing pad where the slavers are coming in and out. But she's basically downloaded a bunch of her research on the slavers, and then as you're moving around, you can use that to figure out.
Yeah, okay, basically, she figured out that this is where they were holed up. So she was trying to plan out assaults. So she was like, you get her notes of basically how she would assault it if she wanted to try different things and stuff. And then once you see the specific things that she's calling out, whether it's the AA guns and stuff, you know, you can access her sort of journal notes about that type of thing and hear commentary. And
all this stuff here on the Gainy Moon is all the same technologies that you guys are having in the PU right now. Basically, this is a procedural planet with all the procedural ecosystems, procedural object placement, and you know, like we've talked about before, still we like to be able to allow the designers, allow the environment artists to go in and to hand place this kind of stuff, because in the end, even without the hand placement, you're not going to get exactly like what you're seeing here. This is, you know, they've authored this so that the approach is really nice. I mean, this is crafted plus procedural, so it's a nice thing to combine.
I mean,
so that's when he mentions them.
And then on your HUD it would actually signal, and so some of that kind of detail. I mean, you know, as you guys that follow 3.0, the UI's been one of the things that have been sort of holding us up. So we're still behind on some of the UI that we would dial in here. But again, that would be sort of indicating where you would land and stuff like that. And then the other thing I think we've talked about is we're going to be dialing in more of the atmospheric flight model, because that's not fully all there. We've got plans for it this coming year, and again, that would make that more interesting and challenging, coming down here in the low areas, dealing with a little bit of, you know, flight, bucking around, some turbulent. And I think our plan is to make this a fairly stormy planet longer term. So we got some weather tech that's going to come online down the road that would also be, you know, almost think of kind of the approach in for Aliens when they were coming in.
Yeah, the LV
Hadley's Hope.
Some really nice VFX work there from the VFX team. The smoke particles are really nice and volumetric.
So this is sort of like the seat, you know, the shut off back door. There is an access, but maybe there's a way we can sneak in.
Shields offline. Weapon systems offline.
And by the way, we're not really using it. The personal inner thought allows you to exit your seat now, which is how you would access emotes and various things that you wouldn't normally see to interact. It's more a thought, like, oh, I want to leave the seat, or I want to salute to this person. That's kind of the personal inner thought mode, which you access by hitting F, and you click on the little circle icon, and it brings up a whole menu, radial menu for you.
Yeah, I like something you had said about it before, which was just not remembering all the shortcuts. Because I forget the shortcuts. Actually, honestly, sometimes we change them so often that I can't keep track. So sometimes I just look down, and because the inner thought's there now, it actually makes it a lot easier. Yeah, well, if I don't remember.
But I mean, the long-term goal that I have is, you should be able, like, say, if you're using keyboard mouse, you should be able to play all from keyboard mouse. Turn on, couple mode or decouple mode, or turn your headlights on when you're in the cockpit by clicking on the buttons. Or you shouldn't have to know all the hotkeys, but if you do know the hotkeys, you'll be, quicker. So it's sort of like, I don't know, an RTS. You're playing StarCraft. If you know the hotkeys, you can just do a lot more stuff quicker, but you don't need to know. You could just use your mouse to click on things and icons, and it'll be fine. And so that's the goal here. So you should, simple with a mouse and keyboard or a gamepad or a joystick. You should be able to do most of the stuff, and if you learn the hotkeys, you now don't need to actually physically interact with some of the stuff. You can just sort of shortcut to holster your weapon, or drop something or something like that.
Yeah, and this is one of our more, I guess, your typical power puzzle where you've got to get a battery into this.
Well, I think the final one that was meant to happen here is it's actually got a burnt-out battery. So you get into it, you see the battery's burnt out, you need to find a fresh one. You would also have your tactical visor that would tell you that there was weak points you could use your paw on. We didn't really introduce the paw here, we just pulled it out. But in the gameplay, the idea was that you would find the paw and then you would be able to use it. Here's a manual override, which is going to be a feature on most of our automatic doors. So if you cut the power to a whatever, space station or something, you can lock all the doors down, and then they have manual overrides. You can open them manually like that. So it's another way to potentially mess with people or breach or whatever. We manually override it to get out of that room, and now we've got to find a battery.
Sure, and you can probably get AI stuck up or something like that if you're ever gonna.
So, and I think in the final day this wouldn't be quite as like a walkover, and there's a battery right there on. But yeah, I mean, this would be a puzzle. You'd use your tactical visor, you'd scan around, you'd be looking for an energy source. If you get an indication of that,
yeah, it'd be a lot more hinting, right?
And then there's some power over here. You go there, and then you would take it, and then do what we're going to do now.
Because I'm sure watching this fresh, you're like, well, he knows exactly where to go, exactly what to grab, and yeah, it's true, he does. He knows exactly where to go and exactly what to grab, but we'll inform the player a little bit, but not lead him right to it.
Yeah. I mean, this is
simple things like green doors, red doors, and that kind of stuff.
It's still early days as far as dialing all that in. This is, again, vertical slice to sort of indicate how all the systems work together. But yeah, so this is the idea. I mean, the idea is it's not always flying and shooting things or running around on foot and shooting things. Sometimes you have to do puzzles. So the puzzle here was to figure out how to get the power back on. Again, you could get the key, go back to your point of view, and this could all happen from your point of view. But we do nice cinematics to show off the great scenes that we have.
Yeah, and to give the sense that little player, the player a sense of accomplishment in that moment, right? Because it's a tiny little victory he's just made. So yeah, victory.
And the other thing that we don't have in at the moment is the plan is to have a sort of kind of 3D visor map. So in areas, as long as you get the schematics of the download, which in the case of Trejo you would get it, so you could sort of see where you were generally in the area. So it's kind of like a local 3D map, and that would the radar's not actually going to be really in the middle down there. I think we're going to put it on the top right, and the radar would actually switch from this circular thing to this kind of
to the 3D
sort of
one.
Wireframe schematic of where you are, and you would see a pulse of you, and if there was people near making noises, you would see pulses of them.
So if anybody's played Zelda Breath of the Wild, in those Divine Beasts, you have this kind of 3D mapping, and that's exactly what we're looking at. It's make it a lot easier to navigate things like the address and these kind of things without getting lost.
Yeah, well, because the address, I mean, I know it because I've done it so many times.
Yeah,
but when you're first on it, it's so big, you totally get lost. Again, you probably wouldn't just go straight to this panel. You'd actually go to the door. You can't open it because it's on lockdown. And we're actually going to put a shawl over that, I think, a cloth, and then you have to pull it off, and then you would, go out and turn, interact with the UI there and turn off the map, the lockdown mode. And now you've allowed to come out as a sort of side approach into the main chemline facility. And I'm not sure, we used to have someone here that we...
Yeah, we used to have a guy that we would take down. Right?
Well, I think the idea was when the shutters open, they get attracted, and they would come into the room, and you'd wait for him, and you should then try to kill him. But I don't know why he wasn't there. He's gone for a little while. He'll probably be back in the future. We still haven't dialed in the full encounters here because the on-the-foot combat AI is still very early stages. So we've got a lot of the, some of the early basic behaviors, but a lot of the subtlety we really want to, ultimately push that to be as good as anything else that's out there. Maybe even better in combination with some of the more living the life Sims kind of stuff that we have, which you see on the Idris, so it's I'm actually looking forward to having that come into play, because most shooters, when I play them, it's pretty simple stuff. I mean, they start shooting at you, they go to cover, they'll pop out of cover and they shoot. Maybe they go to another piece of cover when the cover gets compromised. Maybe they try to flank you, but not necessarily that much. But having them working in concert and being a bit more tactical, and also hey, someone should run away if you've killed 5 of their buddies. Maybe one of them was like, hell, I'm getting the hell out of here. That drives me nuts in games and in movies where
they're
it's like
very committed to their job.
I mean, you watch John Wick and you go, why does that guy think it's going to go any different for him than the other 50 people John Wick just went through? So no, I'd like to try to get a bit more, it'd be fun, a bit more personality. Like some people they're committed and some people aren't so committed.
And we'll see a glimpse of it a little bit later on once the fight pops off. But there was already some nice details that they were starting to get in, where it's people blind firing over the tops of cover.
Well, we've got a whole bunch of Steve Bender. I mean, we actually overran the number of animations the engine supported. About a week or two ago. There's over 32,000. Right. So we're gonna. Steve's got so much stuff that we've captured and plans. I mean, I've got no doubt at the end of the day, when we get it all fully dialed in, it'll be a really, really nice experience with all the AI. And before that, that was another example of a puzzle where we cut it out and then we carry it, move it around. That's sort of the grabby hands, tactile stuff that we want to get in. And there'll definitely be stuff along that lines throughout the game, and a bit more obvious, because that's the game that if you looked at the approach here, you put your tactical visor on, it would tell you, okay, here's a potential weakness, back entrance. Here's the front door you can go through, and it would sort of mark out on the tactile visor, then you make your decision of how your approach is.
Yeah, but again, it's very much up to you how you wanna get in there. So we got some nice takedowns here.
Yeah, and again, we still have a whole bunch of dialing in and the locomotion moving and the animation for that. Here we go. It's so dark.
Yeah, but you could have just snuck behind the guy, for example, walked in here, but there's no guarantee he's not walking in behind you or something like this. So it's a much better thing. So he talks about the victim. He looked up for maybe half a second there, but this is actually a cryo room. This is where they actually put people to sleep, basically.
Yeah, you can see the sort of coffins later on, but yeah, that's basically where the slavers kind of kidnap people. They bring them in here, and then they sedate them and put them on ice, and then go sell them.
To the Banu.
To the Banu, in this case, yeah.
Because slavery's perfectly fine for the
So
Banu.
yeah, here's the guy who I think is doing it right there. You get a very brief glimpse of it, but...
Yeah, no, unfortunately this was, I think if...
it was really
Sean was playing this, we would play it as not as good FPS players. This is like someone going, okay, I'm going to take everyone out right away. But we would probably spend a bit more time showing off the various.
Sure, yeah, he's playing it like he's playing
bullet
competitively.
Rain, blank fire.
Yeah,
exactly.
He's not dolphin diving or anything yet, but I'm sure he'll get there. Bunny hoppins. But yeah, that's a very, very quick bit of combat here, and like Chris is saying, the AI is still getting worked on. A lot of it is like readability sort of things. So like those guys should be yelling out from behind cover, I'm in cover, or reloading, or he's moving out to the right.
Well, they actually do have some of that.
Yeah,
they get killed within about 2 seconds.
Yeah,
you're not hearing it.
Yeah, there's some of the poor victims. You gotta throw some beer in there too.
Yeah, and a lot of this, I mean, there's a lot of, it's not all fully in here, but there's a lot of sort of implemented triggers. If you went there, you look at it, you'd say something, or you can Trejo's notes, and later on, once you've rescued Trejo, you go and sort of clear out all the slavers, and she helps you, and she has a lot of comments on everything as it comes along.
So this is showing off another sort of traverse approach, where he was in combat. He went into one of these closets and then saw there was a vent down there that he could jump down. And if you've got too many AI guys coming at you or something like that.
Yeah, well, that's kind of. I mean, that's in this particular case, there was several levels of reinforcement. And,
coming in.
And we decided to get back into stealth, go out of eyesight, and move around.
And
so again, this is that.
Yeah,
it's the.
Stay alert. You're here somewhere.
Kind of solid Snake aspect of
things. Very. And the environment team, man, spared no expense down here. This is just
dirty.
Phenomenal work.
For some reason, he doesn't hear this door open behind him, but
he's listening to music.
Yeah, for the purpose of our demo, he doesn't listen to the door open behind him. But in the final game, he definitely would be going, "Huh, what's that?" There's a whole bunch of like the kind of, again, like I said, the kind of solid Snakey style. Oh, there's something over there, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we want to have a fair amount of stealth and tactical aspects to it. And here, I can't remember if you can see quite there, but that actually is a mirror, and you can see us in the mirror. And here's Trejo.
A little worse for wear.
Yeah, Eleanor Tomlinson is the actress, and she's great, and she's actually a fun role. There's a bunch of stuff with her before. In the story, so because she's the advocacy agent in charge of the Odin system, and you go to see her on Fortune's Cross when you first get into the system, and she gives you some leads on various.
Yeah,
folks.
she's sort of. You guys have a bit of a contentious relationship.
I'd like to note for any prospective game directors too. That's a horrible pose to make a game character do. It's so hard to do that one right. We had to work on that a lot, get rid of the chicken wings under the arms and all this kind of stuff. But
it was fun to
try
note
not to hang them up.
I did notice everyone in the chat said "say no."
Say no. I was just about to say that. Yeah, they were being very stingy about their meds.
You guys, Trejo's a good girl. She's
she needs help, guys.
Nah, she's a badass too.
Oh yeah, she wrecks dudes.
I found Trejo. We're on the move.
Good work.
And again, this is using that sort of cinematic cutaway, but you could be in your point of view and you'd still see her all doing all this sort of stuff. But we'd much rather movie moments. We'd like to get some of those in.
Yeah.
Keep moving. I'll contact medical teams and her people to move in when secure.
Understood.
And Lieutenant, make sure Trejo understands this is your op. She goes off again like
there's a backstory to that.
Yeah, there's a
little.
Looks like this is your
and
show.
That last bit of facial animation still was never done.
Yeah, we got to get that.
And there you go.
That tongue up
so that was
lips,
the Squadron 42 vertical slice from the holiday live stream. Thank you very much for listening to us ramble on about it. I hope you enjoyed it. And thanks for your support, everybody. Dave, you want to say anything?
No, thanks for watching, and hope you enjoy it, and can't wait to show you more.
Yeah, same here, and just thanks a lot for supporting us and letting us work on this fantastic project.
Okay, well, it's that. All right, so thank you very much, and have happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Bye.